Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. It's a podcast for casual leaguers. Today, we have a segment called Fact Check 9.8. And what we're going to basically do is look at some of the champions that may have been affected in the patch notes from 9.8 and see if anything really got affected in the rift. We'll look at OP picks. We'll also look at maybe some possible sleeper picks and things that some of our co-hosts have been finding success with, and just basically giving you all the relevant information that you need to know so that you can go out there and climb and make sure that you're not picking like the worst champion ever that you could possibly pick, so you can at least arm yourself with information. So today, obviously, I'm here. Kevin She is returning with us again. Glad to have him back. Nighthawk was here before, but you never got to see his face, so he's first time face cam. And we got Kangdor, who's first time co-host here, so we're excited to have him. As tradition, Kangdor, what we usually do is, if you're a first-time co-host, we like you to introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about your history with League, how you came to like it, where you're at now, and the status of your climb and all of that stuff, just so that our listeners get to know you a little bit. But I'm going to open it up just for a minute or two for you, Kangdor, to kind of give us an introduction to yourself.
All right, well, I started playing League at like season 6. One of my friends introduced me to it. Was playing jungle for the longest time, just playing Master Yi and like bronze and silver, losing a lot. That was me for the early times. Eventually, I decided in like season like 8ish or early season or late season 7 that I actually wanted to try and play different champions and maybe get out of silver. So I started playing a little bit more Jax in the jungle, someone with actually CC to help his teammates gank. And then eventually moved up to the top lane, and I play a lot of bruiser type champions top lane. You got Kled, you got Jax. I play some tanks, like maybe a little bit of Scion, but it's ended up with me being about like Platinum Elo. Usually, the highest I've gotten is Plat 1, so that's where I've been in League in terms of ranking. So yeah, that's
who's your favorite. So you said Jax. Do you have any other? Is that your favorite champion, or do you have another pick that you go to?
I'd say right now Kled is my favorite. I used to play Aatrox before and after the rework, but he's just awful right now. Just he's like a 45% win rate or something. Aatrox. So I can't get away with playing him if I really want to win. So I just spam Kled top lane right now, and he's can win against almost any top laner. So that's why I like playing him.
Nice. Okay, and Kevin and Nighthawk, real quickly, I just want to ask you guys lately. So Nighthawk, what champion have you been finding some success with in the past week or so?
So this patch was sort of like the patch that threw a bone to tank junglers for the first time in over a year. We saw buffs for Amumu, Sejuani, and surprisingly enough, Orin. And many people might not consider him a jungler, but some people have actually been messing with it, and it's actually been very interesting. But I think Amumu, especially in the lower elos, from Iron to Gold, is going to be a fantastic jungler for a lot of people to pick up. Great CC, super enabler for any team comp, and his newly buffed passive gives you some incredible true damage, which can help burn through tanks as well.
Awesome. What about you, Kevin? What champs are you having some success with? I heard you mention Hecarim before the show.
Yeah, so if you don't check my OPGG, Hecarim's quite strong. This season's placements threw me into Masters MMR for some reason, so I've been having some interesting games.
He's a god.
No, I got carried by Darius and Panuna the other day, and I was like, God bless. But Hecarim is quite strong right now in the jungle. He has incredible duel. He actually wins most 1v1s with Conquerors, so that's insane. He hasn't been touched by any of the nerfs, and he actually wins 2v2 because he has this little whirly thing on his Q. I would recommend Hecarim, but if you're a type of jungler who's not super aggressive, who doesn't really know, like, who just likes to, like power farm the reactive style jungle, I would super recommend Nocturne, actually. There's not a lot of mechanics you have to think of, and your ult just controls the whole map. I kind of one-tricked Nocturne last season, got to like D2, D3, and I would say that like it's really simple. You just clear camps, and when you have ult and you see something happening on the map, or you see a free kill, you just click R. And
Real simple.
sometimes you get kills without knowing you're getting kills. Like you'll go bot and then the top lane will back off and they're like, "Hey, you saved my life." I'm like, "Sure, I did." So,
I love that. You mentioned the word that I like is real simple. That's the simpler the better for me. And to be honest, our audience here is for, lower elo, and, there's nothing a shame with being lower elo. That's what a majority of League of Legends players are. And, a lot of times when you focus on champs that don't have a ton of mechanics, you can focus more on the overall game, and that can actually help you climb much faster than trying to pick up a champion that may look flashy, but is very hard to master. So really good picks. Glad to hear some of those champions that y'all are talking about. Today is all about fact checking. So I looked at a bunch of stats. I'm sure you guys have as well. So we're just going to talk about it. And there are a couple of champs that I had on my list that I wanted to throw out there, and because they've been talked about the past few patches. And so we just want to see where they're at now in 9.8. And then I have a list kind of from top lane all the way down to support, just kind of looking at what top tiers are, if there's any movers or shakers or anybody moving up the ranks, and seeing who, people could possibly pick up to climb in this meta. So first champ I wanted to talk about is Kayle. I know Kayle has been in the limelight for the past several patches. And from what I found is that she's actually dropped in win percentage, going from 53% to 50% in the top lane. In fact, as far as pick rate goes, she's gone from 10% to 6%, so she's being picked less, and she's even being banned less, from 42% last patch to 29%. So she's not being picked as often, she's not being banned as often. It seems like the perceived notion from players out there is that she's not as strong. She's still considered top tier, but she doesn't seem to be in that OP pick ban phase right now. What are your thoughts on that, on Kayle there? So I'll start with you, Nighthawk. What are your thoughts on Kayle?
Kayle was an interesting champion because usually when you see champion reworks or new champions come out, you technically see them start out at a lower win rate and start to rise up over the patches as players get the hang of them. But the interesting thing about Kayle's rework is that it changed very little about how her kit works. It just made her a lot smoother to play, and it enabled a lot more of her sort of hyper carry comps. The main change to her kit was the melee to ranged over the course of the game, which kind of already was a thing. By leveling up your E, it became basically permanently ranged.
Right.
So when we saw Kayle come into the game, and she had something, I believe, like a 55 to 56% win rate in most elos, as soon as she came out, or at least as soon as those quality of life buffs came through, there was obviously something very wrong with the champion, very overpowered. But now I think Riot has gotten her into a place where she's probably not the king of the castle anymore. She's not going to be running over every game. She's still very, very strong. I think very skilled players with her will still be able to take over games. I think the way that Riot balanced her is that they made it a lot harder to get to that level 16 or that level 11 power spike. And if you can punish her before then, I think that she'll just be perfectly manageable.
Okay. Kangdor, you got any thoughts on Kayle?
Yeah, I mean, along similar lines, they've just made it so that not anyone can just play her and abuse the fact that she was so hard to punish early game before. Like, she had her base stats were so high that even if you engaged on her and dealt, you thought it was a lot of damage to her with Klepto and with inspiration, and with the inspiration runes, like they give you the biscuits and time warp tonic, she can just sustain right back up through lane and just spam E on you, which as you get lower and lower on health, it does more damage to you and forces you out of lane against a champion that should have a terrible early game. So by allowing her to have such a free early game, and obviously her late game scaling is absurd compared to most champions in the game, she just had an absurd win rate of like 54% or whatever it was. So they kept nerfing her base stats, and they made it so that she couldn't abuse Klepto as easily to get level 11 and level 16 quite as early. And while I think that was like part of it, I still think the biggest part was making it so that she was easier to abuse early and didn't have to depend so much on your jungler just spam ganking top lane against Kayle, because she has no escape beside flash and like her ult. So
right. Yeah. Do you agree with that, Kevin? Do you got any other thoughts on Kayle?
Yeah, so some extra things to add in is I think that Kale was overlooked on release because she was clunky. Her W used to lag her auto attack, so it really felt awful. So a lot of people just overlooked how strong she was. With nerfs to 9.7 that Kingdor just mentioned on skill pots, no longer giving you the ability to hit your level 11 power spike at 10 or level 16 at 15, combined with the base attack speed nerfs that she just got last patch, I think the base attack speed nerfs are huge. Base attack speed is a really big deal that a lot of people overlook because it's like hard to notice. But your base attack speed on your character multiplies with all the items you build with. So like
That's right.
PD giving you like 30% extra attack speed or whatever is actually different from one character to another, which is why you can't build AD carry on every ranged character in the game. And the other thing to keep in mind, if you're trying to pick up Kale, 50% win rate looks fine. You know, it looks like a coin flip. But for a hyper scaling late game carry, that's actually abysmal in some ways, because that means that it's like a 60 or 55+% win rate late game and like a 40-ish or maybe even high 30-ish% win rate early game. So if you like suffering early game in your solo queue games, you think you can take that, pick Kale. But I would say leave it to like flex queue or somewhere where you can actually draft a real comp, because in solo queue there's just so much snowballing going on right now. So if you pick Kale and you're not like super experienced with that kind of playstyle, it's going to be really bad. It won't feel like a 50% win rate.
Great. Good insights. Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot to digest there with Kale, but I think you guys made some really great points. Let's move on to Urgot. Urgot, you know, I love this champ because it doesn't take much skill to play well, and you know that's me all day, right? I like champs that are easy to play, and so he's basically stayed steady. It seems like from 9.7 and 9.8, staying right around a 51% win rate. He's being picked a little bit less from 7 to 5%, and he's being banned a little bit less from 20 to 13%. He's still strong. I think, in my opinion, but he seems like there's more popular top laners at the moment, you know, flashier maybe, but in my opinion, if you're looking to climb and you're, you know, gold, silverish, even bronze, I think Urgot to me seems like a great pick. He's not being banned out that much. He's not being picked that much, and he's hovering above a 50% win rate. Pretty easy to learn. And I think he's doing great. Let's start with you this time, Kangor. What are your thoughts on Urgot?
I mean, I think you're right along the lines against people, especially lower elo, who don't understand how to play around his passive, because with Conqueror, that's where a ton of his damage is coming from. The fact that he can convert 10% of that passive damage, which does, I don't know exactly how much, but a ridiculous amount of like straight health. And he can just proc the same one over and over again, since they removed the reduced damage from his passive legs in the previous patch. So he does a ton of damage with his passive. So if you don't follow like his expended passive shots on his legs and stay away from the ones that he hasn't shot yet, he's gonna do a ridiculous amount of damage to you. So I know a lot of low elo players will just let him like walk around you and hit all the legs, and they're like, "Why is he doing so much damage to me? This is so broken." And so lower elos, and as you get higher, his early game's pretty bad, but once he hits level either 11 or 13, I think, where he starts to get his legs up like every second or 2 seconds, the passive legs, it almost doesn't matter if you dodge his legs anymore, because it just comes right back up when he just has W on nonstop. So he's definitely, I think, much more of a scaling threat than he used to be. He still can certainly be a lane bully, but not to like this ultra safe point that he was before. That was like the terror of pro play. So I think that it's a better direction they took it in, and certainly better for solo queue. So I think if you want to like play someone like sniping with the ult kind of like that and just executing people from across the map, I think he's fun that way, and he certainly can bully melee champions. You just have to be able to play around his passive well and realize that he's a lot squishier than he used to be.
Yeah, good point. Especially with the higher cooldown on his E, and then the E shielding also being attached to that. It's like you got to be more selective of when you use it, because it used to be on his W. Any thoughts on that? You guys agree, disagree? You guys can just jump in, Nighthawk or Kevin, on Urgot.
Yeah,
I like Urgot. Go ahead.
Oh, just real quick. Just like, I think that Urgot's still pretty good. I think he's pretty good in top. He's also still pretty good in jungle. His clear is great. And I think that it's a good safe pick. Like, He does a lot of damage. You don't have to think about it. You're running away
I like
and you're
it.
still winning.
That's right.
So I'm a big
it.
fan.
Okay.
That's all I gotta say about Urgot right now.
Nighthawk?
I actually like Urgot a lot as counter picks to certain meta champions like Akali, Riven, and Fiora. Like, especially Fiora, because Fiora's whole deal is she wants to get around you and proc those vitals, and that's like Urgot's dream. He's like, oh, she's gonna do all the work for me.
Wait, also a hidden passive to the Urgot Fiora matchup is the vitals on certain skins look the same as the Urgot. Like,
oh my gosh!
So you can't always tell. My Fiora friends are like, "What am I supposed to do?" I'm like, "You're done, though, dude."
I guess you just stop playing the game. One thing to look out when playing Urgot is into Fiora is don't E her when her riposta's up or post day. If you say it, is because that will stun you for like 3 seconds and then you'll just be dead.
Because they buffed that recently, didn't they?
Yeah, 1.5 to 2.
Yeah, they did. It's pretty insane actually. But fantastic champion. He feels a lot like pre-nerf Scion, where it's very hard to lose lane with him. Pretty much only weak to certain ranged champions, like maybe a Ryze or a Vladimir. And those champions, well, at least Vladimir should be permabanned anyway, because that champion is insanely broken. But at the end of the day, he's a lot of fun to play. He doesn't require a ton of mechanical skill. A lot of his weaknesses are nullified when she gets Steric's Gauge and Righteous Glory, so you can just kind of run it at the team, do an AoE slow, engage on somebody, hopefully kill the tank or the squishy, and then if not, maybe get a snipe off on somebody with your ult. I don't know a ton about him in the jungle.
You can't build Steric's Gauge on Urgot, can you?
Not Steric's Gauge, sorry.
You mean Cleaver? Or Death?
Yeah, I was like, wait, am I building
this range, doesn't it?
Used to be Steric's Gauge until only. But yeah, just build beefy items on him, kind of just run at the enemy and press W and just leave W on as much as possible. Fun champion, a lot of fun.
Yeah. He's just so stunned by how good our comments were.
I think he's muted.
Yeah, I think you can't hear him. We lose audio.
Hello, there it is. Yeah,
there he is.
My mute button is very finicky. I don't know why, but if I had to pick a champion, like the League Dad recommended pick, it's Urgot because simple, pretty easy to play, strong. Meets all of my criteria there. Okay, let's move on to another champion, Riven. Riven is one of those champions that's been talked about a lot. So here from silver on up, so even in silver, because I think a lot of times people, or you see it at least on Reddit all the time saying, well, it's only the high, there's a lot of Riven mains. And so the reason why it's a high percentage is because they're really good at him. But if you're trash at him, then he's still no good. But from silver, he's still at right around 50%. And then that win percentage just goes up the higher elo you go. And he's also, or she's also still a very high pick and ban champion. So what do you guys think about this champ? Yeah, I mean, I had a Riven today that obviously had never picked up Riven, but I feel like even if you know somewhat at least what her skills do, you could still do decently well. I'd like to know what your thoughts on are this champion, and I'll start with you, Nighthawk. Go ahead and lead off with Riven.
So Riven's sort of been a sleeper strong pick for top lane for a very, very, very long time. She's always had some of the highest amount of mains in the game. I think it goes Yasuo, Riven, Zed, or something similar to that. I'm not sure about Zed these days. But the reason why she has, like you said, she has a large amount of mains because she's very mechanically fun to play, and she has a lot of outplay flashy potential via her abilities and her ultimate. And I think that's the reason why she's starting to become a lot stronger now, is because her rune synergies, item synergies, and then counter picks are just it's like the perfect trifecta storm. Death Stance and Black Cleaver and Conquer are all incredibly strong. Death Stance nullifies a lot of her squishiness when she engages, because her shield actually can negate the burn damage from the item. So it makes her very hard to kill. It's like the best item you can build on her. I see a lot of Spear of Sojin on her as well. I don't actually play Riven very much, but from what I've seen, you build Spear, Black Cleaver, and Death Stance, and you have 45% CDR. A decent amount of HP and a butt ton of AD, and you just roll over people. And ignore armor too because of Conquer and Black Cleaver.
Absolutely. Kevin, you got any thoughts on that, Riven?
Yeah, so my second most played character back in season 3 when I was playing the game was Riven after Singe. So I had a lot of experience with her. I don't know how to do the auto cancels anymore, but I can still win games with her. That doesn't make any sense. She was
doesn't make any sense.
She was untouched and unlooked for a long time because she used to get absolutely bodied by Victor Top for all of the end of last season.
Yeah.
And then towards the beginning of this season before they absolutely gutted him. So that's how she avoided getting touched. And like there's like vocal players like Hushinchin or whatever who just get 0 and 13 in lane. So people just thought, oh, Riven's not that great. But right now she's #1 pick rate at Plat Plus and Diamond Plus. A win rate of 52.88 and a 53% respectively, which is insane. And a pick rate of 13%. I don't think 13% pick rate means one trick. I think that means that she's broken.
That's everybody, yeah.
I am super surprised they didn't touch her this patch because this was a tank buff patch. So I assumed they would also touch the bruisers, but maybe the tanks can handle her. We'll have to let the data settle for a bit after the patch settles in, but I don't understand.
Okay. According to Riot, she has like a low win rate in Brazil or something, so she doesn't.
I know they always come up with something. She's like, I don't know. They come up with some weird stat that nobody ever knows about. Like they have something that we're not seeing, like that 90% of the league community doesn't see. When I think we've been
MSI Riven skins coming out, dude. That's
what it is.
Always a story.
Yo, if you're right about that, Kevin, then you might be on a conspiracy theory.
I'm gonna get a gag order from Rito soon.
She has a very low win rate in Wakanda.
Okay, that makes sense.
Those
I knew
it.
Yeah, no, we can't. No, for sure. Okay, let's move on to another champ that I was excited about, Nautilus. Right. So Nautilus, when we talked about patch notes, this was something I really wanted to try playing. I have played a couple of it, but AP Nautilus is a thing that we were seeing in Korea. Some high elo players were playing AP Nautilus in the mid, some in the top, but mostly in mid lane. So I wanted to do some stat checking. And silver and gold, she actually went up 3 percentage points from 47 to 50% win rate. Plat, she's gone up from 47 to 50 as well. Diamond, she's same thing. So all across the board, basically up 3 percentage points in win rate. She basically went from never being picked, like 0.3%, to now ranging from 2 to 5% across across the board there. So getting picked and banned a little bit more often. And she's definitely, or he, I'm assuming it's a guy, right?
Sounds like a guy, but
I'd assume. But I've been wrong. I've been wrong before, so I'm assuming he's a guy. But he's gone from basically nowhere other than support to now, kind of seeing some gameplay and having some success, I guess. Have you guys gotten to try this AP Nautilus in the mid lane? And if so, what are your results? So let's start with you, Kevin, this time.
So I've been spamming it since before the buffs because I saw it in the PB and I was like, this is it. This is my jam. And my friends were like, are you crazy? So some nuances about Nautilus, but he's incredibly strong at trading with assassins, for example, except for Yasuo, because he can block your ult, I think. If you're against like a Zed or a Fizz, you'll absolutely deny them the chance to play League of Legends. You walk up with Aftershock, you bonk them on the head, and then you just do your combo. You don't need to use any skill, and you'll win the trade 100%. And the hook got a 0.15 AP ratio buff and 20 damage to 40 damage from ranks 1 to 5. He's insane. He's also the #1 pick support right now in Korea, so take that for what you will. So he works in both roles. I don't pick him into poke mages because during the early lane phases, if you don't get ganks, like if you can't coordinate with your jungler, you'll get smashed. You won't be able to farm. You'll be very sad. And the nicest part about Nautilus is if things are really going to shit, you can just go full tank and still be a character. So
exactly.
it's just insane. It's so fun. I play Nautilus, max E first, and then Q, and then W.
Yep. Okay, Kangdor, got any thoughts on Nautilus?
Yeah, I think he's got one of those benefits about like playing those, those cheese like laners that people don't normally experience. So they like he was saying against the assassins, they're not gonna expect him to do like 0 damage to him. But because his kit is built around him being a tank, plus Aftershock, he already negates so much damage just from his shield and Aftershock alone. And since they're so bursty, they can't out-sustain him with the rest of his trade. So it's just, they don't expect it. And I think he benefits a lot from people not understanding how to play against him because they never have.
For sure.
I'm sure he's not like going to be the number one pick of all time or anything, but he's definitely like really good. I mean, you've seen a lot of people start picking him up since he just got buffed. And he has the potential, as Kevin was saying, to like go into AP, or if you're behind, go into tank, which not a lot of champions have the flexibility to just change their build path in the middle of a game if things aren't going well and still be viable. So I think that allows him to give a lot of flexibility in game. Plus, he can be changed. Like you can play him mid, you can play him support. He's not bad top. I mean, bruisers are definitely worse, but he's still, especially with these buffs, going to be more viable top lane. So he has a lot of versatility, and I think that he's going to be a much better pick this patch. So.
Yeah, I think I was funny because when I was first trying him out, I was like, you know, I went on pro builds just to see what people were building. And at first I was like, wait, I see some people building them AP, some people still building them tanky. And I'm like, what happened? What do I build here? But yeah, it's like, it's cool because you can kind of flex whatever your team needs at that point. So that's interesting. And I like how you mentioned the OP sleeper buff that nobody knows how to play against them. So use that to your advantage. Do you got any thoughts on this, Nighthawk?
Yeah, something that I love about Nautilus is he has some of the highest CC potential of any champion. I believe he has 3 separate forms of CC in his kit, 4 if you count as E-slow. So it's an absolute joy to play with him just because he can lock down people so effectively. Something that I really thought we would see with these buffs is I thought we would see the return of him in the jungle, especially with the Cinderhulk buff to boot. But it doesn't really seem like that has happened. I think it's probably because he's so weak at contesting scuttles early. Maybe if we see the scuttle change go through in 9.9, the delayed scuttle start, we might see him come back. But until then, we probably won't see him back in the jungle, which is a shame because he is the perfect jungler for most laners, especially if you're going to pick a Riven or something boring top lane like that.
I think
no CC.
I think he struggles a lot in the jungle, especially because there are a lot of like Conqueror junglers that are coming out now. So as we were saying, like he doesn't do quite as well top lane because there are bruisers who can take Conqueror, who can negate the fact he has Aftershock, regardless if he is AP or not. So all these, like, you got Hecarim jungle who's taking like Conqueror. You could have Olaf jungle with Conqueror. They're just gonna outduel Nautilus regardless of what runes or what builds he has. And since a lot of the game is about like getting that early lead in the jungle, getting those scuttles. Even if his gank potential is really nice because he's Nautilus, he just can't contest the scuttles with anyone who takes Conqueror because they're just going to easily 1v1 him.
Yeah, and that's a shame.
Also to throw in, for all the junglers out there or people who just like to roam, you can push waves pretty well with Nautilus. He has a very good wave clear with his Emax. Then you can just roam over and gank, or it's the easiest gank setup of your life. Like you have hook, alt, the bonk, everything works. So like,
one thing I noticed too, I remember too that his Q, like if you use it on terrain, the cooldown is reduced, and I believe you get some mana refunded. Is that correct?
You get half the mana refunded.
You get some of the mana, and the cooldown goes down, right?
So going to lane is like really fast. Yeah, like when I buy and go to lane, it's super fast. You can roam really quickly. So yeah, I mean it's insane how fun that champ is. You can get priority and you can help your jungler out. You can roam out the lanes. So just a lot of really fun things that Nautilus brings to the table, and I think that's what makes it pretty interesting. Is that AP, you can also still go tanky. You have a lot of utility in your CC. You also roam really well. So definitely try it out, at least in some flex or normals, especially if you got pre-made teammates. I think that'll be a really fun pick for you to try out. Next thing I want to talk about is Kayn, because Blue Kayn got that E buff where his cooldown is like really, I think it's 8 seconds across the board, across all levels. So I just wanted to check, real quickly to see if there was any change as far as, is he spiking up in win rate or whatever. So the only thing I saw, so the win rate is basically the same. I have not seen any increase in win rate, but it seemed like every game I was playing, he was being picked. And basically across all elos, his pick rate has gone up about 4%. So people are definitely playing him, trying him out, trying the Blue Kayn route. I think the consensus still seems to be that Red Cane is overall the better choice, but the Blue Cane seems like it's a lot of fun. I'm opening it up to you guys. Anybody can jump in here. What are you guys' thoughts on Blue Cane at the moment?
Blue Cane is incredibly fun, but I still think it's like so ridiculously useless in when you compare it to Red Cane. It's no competition. I love Blue Cane just because of how stupid it is that you can just run across the map in 10 seconds and one shot just a solo way to carry. But the minute you get into any sort of competent level of play and people aren't solo pushing lanes as Tristana or Callista, then he just becomes useless because it's very hard to get into a team fight as Blue Cane. Even if you do get a pick off and go inside somebody, they're probably going to be healed or shielded by their support. You probably won't be able to finish them off before you just get one shot because you have 1800 HP.
Yeah, it's true. You guys got anything to add, Kangdor or Kevin?
So for Blue Cane, this patch, I think the patch was actually a huge deal. Like he has like a 4-second uptime or 5-second downtime on his E, and he can basically, his strengths are really strong. If you get ahead of your enemy jungler, you can literally counter jungle circles around him. It's like old Nunu, where like he sees you and he's like, well, what can I do? It's Blue Cane. But the problem is that this patch buffed so many tanks. So if tanks start getting played a lot more, he's absolutely useless. This version of Blue Cane would have been insane a few patches ago, where we would just see 5 squishies across the map. But he can't excel if you're picking into a hard CC or like, so like, if there was a Nautilus, he clicks R and you're like, well, it's over, and stuff like that. So it still actually has a lot of good situations against squishies. I think that the cleanliness of the W on Shadow Assassin King is insane, and I think it's still unexplored tech. I think that if you get experience with it, has the ability to literally delete the enemy jungler and make him rage quit. The problem is you have to get there, and so I think that don't pick up Kane in ranked for the first time. You must practice. practice.
Oh, I'm doing it. I'm just kidding.
Kangdor, if you do, just disclaimer. It's hard.
Yeah, disclaimer. Okay, Kangdor, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that like Blue Cane is significantly harder to play well than Red Cane. Red Cane's just like press W, knock up the whole team, and then you Q into them, and then you press R, and then you wait for your cooldowns, and you do the same thing again, and you hope that your sustain is enough and the CC is enough for your team to do something. But Blue Cane, it's like you better learn how to like edge around the side of the wall and press W like at the right moment to hit all of like as many of the squishes as you can and decide whether or not you should go in. Like, because if you make one mistake, you're dead instantly, and that's kind of how it is for a lot of like assassin players to play them well. And so I think a lot of the power with Blue Cane is in the fact that he can like very quickly travel across the map by going through the walls and stuff like that, which is nice if you know how to abuse that, which like Kevin said about like counter jungling and following the enemy jungler, like you could make their life just absolutely terrible. But if you're not able to abuse that, there are easier assassins to play that are just not as squishy, that scale harder than him. Like Kha'Zix is always going to be a disgusting assassin whenever assassins are good. Like he one shots, he goes invisible, and he has an E reset, so he can just jump in and out of your team, which is probably better than like Kane's going through the wall every 4 seconds, because Kha'Zix can just do the same thing but just going over the wall. So I think that he's fun. He's certainly fun to watch, and he's cool. I think he's really hard to play. But I think if you're really good at counter jungling and knowing how to make the enemy's life like in the jungle just terrible, then I think he's really good. Otherwise, if you're looking for an easier to play assassin who just wants to, if you want to team fight more easily, pick up like Kha'Zix, pick up Rengar. You'll just one shot people and then just run away, and there's not much they can do about it comparatively.
Okay. Cool. So one more champion I didn't have on my list to stat check, but someone in chat mentioned it, which I think might be good to talk about. Rek'Sai. Have you guys, what are your thoughts on Rek'Sai at the moment? Again, I don't have any stats, so I don't know, but maybe from your experience or things that you've seen in your games, what are your thoughts on Rek'Sai in 9.8? Let's start with you, Kevin.
So for Rek'Sai, when I'm playing on my Smurf, I never see her. She's like, let me confirm real quick. I think her pick rate is like insanely low. Not insanely low. She's 14th out of 36 of junglers in Plat Plus, but then when I'm playing on my main in Diamond Plus, she's 3 out of 36. which with a 53% win rate, I think Rek'Sai is still good right now. The issues with Rek'Sai are that her burden of execution are huge. So like that's why you don't see like huge rants about like Rek'Sai being broken on Reddit, for example, because you don't see her getting picked a lot because you need to know the pathing. It's kind of like Kayn in a sense. You need to know where the tunnels are supposed to be going, and once people get used to where to ward, like warding top, try if you're on the what is it, red side or blue side? That's the bottom left of the map. Whatever. You know, like if you're in top lane, like Rek'Sai can just like tunnel underneath you, or if you're in bot lane, she can tunnel underneath you if you're on a certain part of the map. Once you learn how to ward against that, like she's actually quite easy to handle, I guess. It just like a lot of her strength comes from the surprise factor she offers. Also, the fact that she bummed out in the NALCS finals.
I was wondering if you were gonna mention that.
Yeah, I have to say that I feel like whenever I enter solo queue or normals, it's just whatever looked really good in pros the last week. It gets picked a lot because I was like, where did Jarvan go all of a sudden?
She did really good in the first 3 games.
She did.
That's so
people
funny.
only remember how it ended. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Nighthawk or Kangdor, do you have any thoughts on Rek'Sai?
I mean,
from a more low elo perspective, because obviously Kevin's playing up with a very good people.
Kevin's a god, obviously. Getting placed in Masters. I mean, good gosh. Okay.
I'm D4 with that MMR. I don't know why.
Okay.
But the main problem with Rek'Sai is that your team, and probably you, if you're this low elo, you're not going to utilize the W passive to the extent that it should be. The vision it provides is just so incredibly important in making picks and making plays around objectives. It can be the linchpin in deciding whether to rush a dragon or a baron, or if you're thinking you might get ganked, you can see those little tremor senses going around.
Yep.
And I just don't think that happens very much in the lower elos, and I think that's such a big part of her power budget that the rest of her kit just doesn't do fantastically in low elos, especially when you're versus junglers like Udyr, Jax, who else gets played a lot. I mean, even Kayn, I think, all do what she does in the low elo better, because in low elo her job is to find the squishy, jump on her, hopefully kill her, and then tunnel out or knock up somebody else. That's about it. So not Kangdor? Super good in my opinion.
Yeah, and more thing again with like the differentiation between like low elo and high elo. High elo, like their games last significantly less time than like low elo. And Rek'Sai excels at like the early game because again, like the burrowing allows her to travel all over the map, just get off crazy gank angles, which is what her strength is the gank. And the dueling in the jungle is really good for her early on. But later on, when people get armor, even with Conquer, it's still not enough late game for her to be like useful enough to do anything. And obviously, low elo games tend to go to like 40, sometimes even 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And at that point, Rek'Sai is just like a knock-up bot who can't really do anything else, which is not really that helpful for team and team fights.
Cool. It was a lot like Lee Sin, maybe, where they kind of just fall off really hard post 30 minutes.
Yeah,
for sure. Like their strength is they can make the opponent rage quit from the ganks, but
it's true.
It's
true. I don't know how many times where I had to be like, "It's okay, Lee Sin got a few kills, everybody's ready to FF," and I'm like, "Hello, it's fine, we're okay," you know. It's just Lee Sin. Anyway, so those are kind of the champion specific ones I wanted to talk about. I wanted to go through each lane, and I've gone through and kind of looked at what seems to be top tier, what's winning a lot right now, and kind of drawing a few conclusions from that. Since we talked a lot about top lane, I want to start on the opposite end, and let's start talking about ADC and support. And before I go into the subject of Sonateric, I'd actually like to look at normal ADCs and normal support. So for ADCs across the board, silver through plat, what I'm seeing top tier is Vayne, Jinx, and Draven. In fact, for as far as win rate goes, Jinx is also in the highest win rate category, top 3 for silver all the way through plat plus. So from my conclusion, just from seeing those things, it seems like as far as ADCs go, Jinx seems to be a pretty strong pick at the moment. What do you guys agree, disagree? I mean, from what I was looking at his stats, it seems like not only does she seem to be agreed upon as a top tier pick, but is also winning a ton. as well. Do you guys agree with that, Jinx? What about you, Nighthawk? Let's start with you. Do you agree with Jinx?
Yeah, I think Jinx is fantastic right now. She's always been a very strong. I think she's classified as a hyper carry. I consider more of a mid to late game power spike.
Mm-hmm.
But she's always been fantastic just because of her long range rockets and then the AoE damage from the Runins mixed with the splash damage from the rockets. It's just going to absolutely melt the backlines. And she actually has a great kiting ability after she gets a kill and an assist. She moves very quickly with the Get Excited passive. So she's pretty easy to play. Not a lot of mechanical skill involved. Usually the most mechanical skill you see out of her is positioning, which you either get or you don't. And then maybe switching off of rockets to the machine gun to get hyper DPS. She has okay self peel with the chompers and the W, but she's just incredibly strong when she hits the. I think the IE revert really helped her back out because she enjoys the BF sword into the Zeal rush that a lot of the AD carries are finally getting back into now that Riot decided to make IE good again. So rotating onto Vayne, I think Vayne is so overloaded in every single way that the only thing that holds her back is that her range is this long.
Yeah.
And if you do not know how to play her, then you're just going to get one shot by whoever's on the enemy team who's fed. But if you can play Vayne well, you can 1v5 every game. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't like Vayne because I feel like whenever I'm playing like somebody who can kill her if I get up close, she just condemns me or ults and I can't ever find her, and I'm like, this sucks. And then when my cooldowns are done, she's chasing me to hell and I'm dead. So I do not like that champ. I feel like her power spike also seems to be a lot quicker than most, which isn't she supposed to be like a late game like hyper carry? Because I feel like once she gets Bork and Rageblade, isn't she like activated and God mode? So that is weird to me.
Yeah,
the main problem I have with Vayne is that you can't really itemize around her. You can't build tank because she has true damage. You can't stack health because she has % health damage, especially with the Bork and their Gwynsues. And then you can't build squishy because she'll just one-shot you anyway.
Exactly.
So there's very little you can itemize around Vayne.
Yep. Kangor, do you have something on Vayne?
Yeah, you really have to like outposition Vayne to be able to kill her in team fights, because if her team peels well for her, she's gonna outdamage every other person in the game. Like, it doesn't matter what they do, because the Ginsu's like making sure that her W hits more than once, it does too much damage. I'm assuming that's one of the reasons why they nerfed the cost of Blade of the Rune King, and they made it 100 gold more expensive to try and somewhat slow down Vayne.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, like 100 gold or whatever it was. Even though there are plenty of other ADCs that, like Varus, like Lucian, that had much lower like win rate than her and rely on that item just as much as she does, that are going to get hit by that nerf. So for some reason, instead of focusing Vayne, they're focusing one of the items that she builds. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because I don't think she's fun for she's only fun for the person playing her in most cases. I don't think most people feel like, oh, I'm getting outplayed by like 0.5 seconds.
I hate that champ. Yeah, no, I hate that champ.
I don't know.
Kevin, do you got any thoughts on Vayne or Jinx?
Yeah, so two things. So for Jinx, I'm a huge Jinx proponent. I think that like in those really skirmishy solo queue games, Jinx does a surprising amount of damage. You take lethal tempo, and if they don't target you, it's kind of like when you forget to target Soraka. All of a sudden, she's making huge impact. Because like the second she gets a reset, she's basically like,
oh gosh,
like for those like however many seconds, she's like a god character, and so she can really like, if they fail a tower dive or if they fail a gank, she can just pop off randomly. And she's the kind of character who has wave clear, which is safe, has poke, which is safe, like a 700 range AoE auto attack that like a lot of people mess up, where like if you start hitting them a couple times with your rockets, they're like, oh shit, I'm in death range, and then you just shoot your ult and you get a flash or a kill. So I think Jinx is great. Super fun to play, not super, but relatively easy to pick up too. I think Vayne is she
say it. It's okay. It's okay. We're all here for you.
It doesn't make sense. Like when she gets her silver bolt with her third stack, a present attack, I'm just like, I lost half my health. Well, okay then.
Yeah.
In other regions, not as much NA, but in other regions, she's also getting steam as a top laner, as a
I know.
counterpick
I've
top
seen that.
laner.
Yep.
She
Mhm.
counters
Yeah, she's
Riven,
oh
for
my
example.
god.
Yeah.
Like when I play against a Riven, I'm like, I'm locking in Vayne. This
Yeah.
Riven's going to the Shadow Realm. So maybe try that out. But
Oh,
the thing is, her win rate's not insane because she's
no.
still people will Vayne spot. If my tip for Vayne players in the future is like, for the most part, if you just hang out in the back and you just like wait for your moment,
Yep.
you'll do a lot better than if you're the engage. Actually, that's the same for almost every AD carry except for Twitch.
Yeah,
Don't
and
engage.
funny story that you mentioned that. Like I was doing with a friend, and he was playing Vayne, and we were kind of getting worked early game. I think we both had like a couple deaths or something. It was not looking well, but he was so calm. He's like, I just got to get Rage Blade, And sure enough, once he got Rage Blade, it was over, man. Like I was playing Nami, and I was just like, you are right. It was like he literally was like, don't even worry, it's fine. You're like, he's just calm as day. And sure enough, just like any other day at the office, he proceeded to kill everybody, and we just won that game pretty easily. So it's pretty insane what she can do when she has a two item power spike. Let's move on because we got a lot to talk about. Support. So as far as tiers, I'm seeing Morg, Nami, Blitz, Sona, even though Sona could be part of that Sonateric thing. But basically those three, even Brand in silver and below, Brand is pretty strong. But what I'm seeing as far as win rate is Morgana is doing fairly well. So is Nami, but I think Morgana in general, we'll talk about her a little bit later too as well in the mid lane, but Morgana still seems to be pretty good. And again, I'm just talking about normal supports here, and so Morgana seems to be the choice. Also Nami, which isn't really a surprise. I've been playing Nami. I think she's really good as well. But any of that surprise you as far as supports go?
I mean, we don't see Braum up there. I think Braum is really good.
Okay. I didn't. Yeah, Braum didn't top up.
Yeah, I mean,
top 3, but yeah. Go ahead.
I think Morgana being up there isn't that surprising because she's kind of like that anti-fun champion. That's how I always describe her. She's like, if you want to have action in the bot lane, she's not gonna let you have action. Like she's gonna say, I'm gonna press E, and you get to watch as my ADC or I run away, and then I press Q, and then you're gonna sit there and take half your health bar from my ADC because there's nothing you can do.
Yep.
I think as ADCs become more important, especially since it's heading more towards a tank meta, her spell shield is just going to be more and more useful for keeping the ADC from being CC'd and like killed by tanks and like the mid laner. And when that becomes the case, then she's going to just go back up in win rate because peeling for the ADC will be the #1 thing again. So she's probably going to have to get nerfed again if things keep going in this direction, especially since her mid lane win rate is still like 52 or 53%, even if her support's like 50%, I think, or something.
Yep. It's still pretty high. Yep.
Yeah, it's still pretty high. She gets banned, I think, 50% of the time is what I saw. So in half of all games, people just don't want her there because you can't play the game if she's there.
This guy right here.
Yeah, it's just she's just not fun. So I understand why she's up there. And I personally, if I'm ever autofilled to support, I tend to ban her because I'll play something. I want to have fun. I want to do something. So I'll pick like Leona. I'll pick like an engaged support. Otherwise you're just gonna sit there and watch your ADCs farm.
Yeah. Kevin, you got anything on this?
Yeah. So real quick on the Braum. I think Braum's probably just not in the top 3 just because it requires coordination. Like if you go in and you like miss or something, or people aren't targeting, I don't know. It should be easy because the passive's there and people should know, but it just seems like Braum needs a little bit of help from this team to work. It does require execution. Morg is insane though, because there's like no other champion that just invalidates the existence of like a third of the roster. Like I'll pick Rammus and I'm like, no, maybe not today. If I see a Morgana on the other team, because I'm just like, I won't be able to break that shield. The nerfs to Morgana were, I think, to borrow a term from another streamer, placebo nerfs. Like I don't think lowering the AP ratio by 0.15 on the Q did anything because the duration's still the same. Like you don't. I mean, for mid lane it does hurt, but for support, because we're talking about support, it doesn't matter. Like you're not going to get to like 100 AP unless you're a madman early game, so like it doesn't do much. And Black Shield still invalidates too many characters. She can push waves, she can get pretty easy Frostwing procs, and her ult is still game changing. People just don't respect her, despite the fact that Morgana's been in the game for like 8 to 9 years now.
Yep.
So
Good
I
point.
think
not
her Black
sure.
Shield is just like another. It's like a weaker Tom Kench W. Now that Tom Kench is just awful. Like it's always going to be a popular thing when you have something that just invalidates bursting onto the ADC or killing your ADC.
Yeah.
That's always going to be important in this game. So now that Tom Kench is almost like unplayable as support, except for very, very like high elo, like basically like pro play only. Morgana's just like the easier version of something like that because they just make it so the ADC can't be CC'd and he's just gonna lifesteal all back any damage done to him.
Yeah, and even if you mess up laning phase, like let's say it was an abysmal laning phase, as long as someone is doing well on the team, you just E them, and it's
Yeah.
free. Like if Master
Good
Yi is
point.
ahead, you just
Yeah, you just
throw a
E.
spell field on him, and
Mhm.
he's just
Yeah.
like popping off.
Yep. Okay.
That Tom Kench nerf hasn't gone through just yet. So he's still really good until the next patch. But once
he
that
still?
nerf does go through, I think he'll It didn't get pushed to 9.8.
Yeah.
But yeah, Morgana just fantastic. I think Morgana has the exact same utility as all the hook champions like Thresh, Blitzcrank, and Nautilus. But she also has the added utility of an insane E, like everyone else has said, just being able to say no more CC on this champion for 5 or 10 seconds is very strong. And she has that potential where even if you miss 99 Qs in a row, if you land the right Q at the right time, the game's over. And that's what every hook champion has. But it's so strong in Morgana because she puts herself. There's almost no danger to Morgana when she goes for a hook or a stun, whereas a lot of the other hook champions are vulnerable when they go for it. So that's why I think she's very strong.
Okay, good points. And so now let's talk about the Sona Taric duo bot lane that we're all hearing about. Just statistically, the win percentage on this is ridiculous. Like you're talking about 65-70% win rates across elos. The problem is not the problem, but the counter side is that it's played very, very, very little. Just because it does take some coordination. So unless you're duoing with somebody, I think a big part is that most of the people still don't know how to play it. And then on the flip side, I think the win rate is so high because I think most people still don't know how to play against it. So if you have a duo partner and you guys are able to execute this well, like you've got a pretty good amount of practice in, I would say go for it. I was a little hesitant before and saying bring this in a ranked solo duo, but to be honest, I hardly ever see it. I think it's a really good strategy, especially if you have like a stronger carry like in the jungle or mid lane. It's really good. And we'll talk a little bit about jungle, but Yi's pretty strong right now and Yi works really well with this strategy. But yeah, that's what we're seeing. Very high win percentage, very low pick and ban. So if you're able to get it through, you probably will. And if you're proficient at it, then I feel like you can get some wins there. Thoughts on this, Sona Taric? Anyone?
We talked about this a hell of a lot on the Craft episode. I think I'm just going to reiterate that real quick as a summary. The main problem with Sona Taric is she requires a duo, which already cuts out a large percentage of the people playing ranked.
Yep.
B, she requires a lot of coordination with the rest of your team. At least if you want to 2v5 or 2v9 or 2v8, sorry. And then also I just think that it's really hard to get out of laning phase with that duo unless you're incredibly good and you have good jungle support. So all things counting against her. And I won't say anything that goes for her because I think we covered that very well. But it's just it's a very strong duo if you can play it well.
Okay. Kevin, you got anything?
I think some of the flaws that come with it too is like even if you have a really good duo that could coordinate the bot lane, the problem is you're putting all your faith into some random jungler or random top lane to carry with that in mind. So there's just a huge barrier to execution. So unless you're playing with like a Smurf jungler or something, it's just why would you sacrifice your fun just to enable someone who could just be feeding? Besides that, though, in flex queue or normals like a pre-made, it's really good. It's I mean we've played it together before, and it's just like. The really funniest part is I actually don't think you have to be insane at it to make it work in bot lane. You can it's like one of those lanes you can die once or twice on both of the characters and you're winning. As long as you don't lose credit at like 7 minutes, I think it's just incredibly powerful. I think it's just a case of people. It's like to put a basketball analogy, it's like why people don't do like granny throws for free throws. Yeah, because like it's not fun and it doesn't look as cool. So most people just won't want to play Sona Taric.
You get made fun of.
I like it.
Yeah, you get fun of. I mean, people
Yeah,
will not
and
give
you
you
give-
a lot of credit for climbing with Sona Tarek. Let me
The
tell you.
highlights reel, baby. Kangdor, you got thoughts on Sona Tarek?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing as Kevin in that, like, I can't imagine it's fun to play because you're just spamming klepto stacks on Sona. Like, wow, like interactive gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think ADCs want to play that. ADCs are the kind of people who will spam Vayne, which is why she's like that 30% pick rate or whatever it is, because they want to be like, wow, look at me, I'm Gosu, I'm 1v9. Sona is not like, I mean, she can 1v9, but you don't feel like you're 1v9ing. You're just pressing like W and Q and R when you need to.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, my whole team's healed up. That felt so amazing. So you're not going to see the kind of like alpha ADC players playing Sona if they don't have to. Like if that's not the only thing they can play. So I don't think
does that cool dopamine rush when you press Q and then the enemy squishy gets like half of their health. That's pretty cool.
I enjoy it. I play Sona before, so.
Well, I mean, so I'm going to go on the counter side of you guys and say that I think, at least in my elo, gold, silver, yes, you might not be able to coordinate with a jungler, but if you have a strong jungler like a Hecarim or even a Rengar or somebody that has a lot of damage, can put out a lot of damage, Yi, another one, I don't actually think you need that good of a jungler to pull this off because honestly, a Yi's going to probably die anyways, right? So all you got to do is coordinate with your bot lane, make sure that we're following the carry there, even if they're not super fed, and protect them at all costs. I personally don't think it would be that hard to execute with a rando as long as it's somebody that has a lot of damage. But, you know, I got to put my money where mouth is. I have not taken it solo duo queue yet, but I honestly think I might have to try it out. You know, we'll see. I'll get back to you on the next fact check episode and see if I was right in my prediction or if I've gotten demoted down to bronze. So we'll figure that out next time. All right, let's move on to mid lane. So silver, gold, plat. So what I'm seeing in silver as far as tier list goes, Yas, Fizz, Ari, and gold, Ari, Morg, Fizz, and plat plus Vlad, Ari, Morg. So again, there's that Morgana. Interesting to note is that across all the elos, Zed has been moved out of the tier list. So we could talk about that a little bit. His W got nerfed. But again, Ari's looking real strong. Morgana again is looking pretty strong from gold elo up, and then in win percentage, in silver and gold, Morg is top 3 win percentage. So not only is she in the top tier list for most of the elos, she's also winning a very high percentage of the games. Ari is in plat plus, also a very high win percent champ. So for me, the conclusion looking at these stats, Morgana, obviously, and then Ari as well seems to be really good. And Zed has kind of been phased out. Zed's win percentage has gone from 52% to 49%. It's about 3 percentage points across all the elos. So that's how mid lane is looking. We mentioned a little bit about Morg. Do you guys want to mention anything else about Morgana in the mid lane specifically? Personally, I feel like it's an unfun champ. So Nighthawk, go ahead.
Everything that we said about Morgana in support, transfer that over to mid lane, except for she also can one shot your squishies.
Gosh,
so that's why she's so insanely strong.
Yeah, and again, she's just one of those unfun champs, can shove wave. Very interactive. She W's the wave. Good game. It's very frustrating to play against. Kevin, Kangdor, I mean, I know we talked a lot about Morgana, but is there anything you wanted to add as far as mid lane Morgana goes?
I mean, mid lane Morgana? I mean, yeah, I think it's just a similar thing. Like, I think I saw Zillion was up there in win rate mid lane too. I think it's like the similar thing with both those champions, in that they offer a lot of peel and utility for their team that's just so useful that it ups their win rate so much. And they actually do a lot of damage that you don't expect. Like Zillion double Q with the time bombs can actually almost one-shot squishies, like, or it can if he's quite ahead. And a lot of people don't expect him to do that much damage. And obviously his ult giving like a free GA and it being on such a low cooldown later in the game gives a lot more utility to the team when the game goes later on and death timers are so much higher. So I think it's just one of those things that they offer so much utility and do more damage and safety that it's hard to play around and capitalize on any mistakes that they make.
Okay. What about you, Kevin?
The nice part about Morg mid is, one, is like if you're autofill mid for some reason.
Yeah.
Or is your secondary.
Autofill mid? What?
Yeah, if you somehow find yourself in mid lane for some reason, Morg is a great pick. Super easy to play.
Mm-hmm.
I love playing with Morg and as Morg because mid prio is a huge deal. Like it's so big to like contest those early scuttles and be like, okay, I'm pushing in the wave. Morgana's coming over with her 2-second or 1.75-second Q at rank 1. Like I have a huge advantage over the other guy, especially if they land the Q. And the nice part is if you lose lane or you're just like, even or slightly behind, you will do stuff. So like I just love insurance champions like that.
Sure.
And the quick tip on Morgana players is don't use your Q at max range almost ever. If you're trying to like kite, it's actually a bigger dissuading tool if you hold on to it. Like if you're getting ganked, for example, wait until they get closer, wait until they blow their dash, then use it. Because if you just throw it out at max range, most humans can dodge it with their
Most humans. I would not be one of those humans.
It's all cute. You see things
You're not sure.
Yeah. Just watch my stream for a little bit. You'll see me miss.
But at the end of the day, it's like sometimes hold your zoning tools, like the Q.
Yeah.
The Q is a huge tool. Don't just throw it at max range because then you'll find yourself thinking Morgana's weak, but she's not.
Okay. Let's talk about Ahri and Zed. First, let's talk about Zed because Zed has been phased out, seems like, not only in win percentage, but even the tier list has been bumped down. What do you guys think about the Zed nerfs? It seems like it's nerfed him. Are you guys seeing the same thing in your games, or what are your thoughts on Zed?
Zed had such a short time to shine. I feel so sorry for people who've been playing Zed. He was so bad for so long, and then Riot's just like, hey, here's some buffs, guys.
Ya.
And they're like, yes, thank you. And then next patch, Riot's like, get down there, get down in the dirt.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't time the release of his skin with the buff.
Yeah, that was how people were saying, like, you nerfed him the same time as the skin. Like, opposite of the Riot Classic.
Somebody's getting fired for that.
I mean, clearly everyone just hates playing against him because he has like a 50% ban rate or something. So I don't think there's like actually a problem with him being strong. It's just people don't enjoy playing against him. Just like Akali still has like a 30 or 40% ban rate, and she has like a 46% win rate. It's like
same with
it's hard to win with her.
Yeah, it's like people just don't like playing against the champion, even if they're not good. So he's just okay now again. He's back to like actually being good in only situational team comps, because having an AD mid is generally not that good anyways.
Yeah.
Because usually you have an AD top laner, and I mean jungle can be AP, but there's still more AD heavy in the jungle. So it's unlike you're probably limiting your team in terms of like damage diversification.
Yeah.
Especially
so unless you have an AP heavy team. Especially with what?
Especially if tanks do start to come back.
Like
a full AD team versus squishies isn't really that big of a deal. But if you do have something like a Sejuani and then maybe a Malphite top or something like that, then if you just all AD, then you can just stack every single armor item in the game and you just cry until you lose the game. Which is interesting. I wonder why they did nerf him so quickly, especially when they were buffing tanks.
True.
I mean,
I can't imagine that.
I still think it has something to do with just because he gets banned so much that like it was probably getting to the point that like he wasn't played at all. Everyone was just always banning him because once he actually gets good, everyone just perma bans him.
It's true. Okay, what about Ahri? What do you guys think about Ahri? I mean, she's been good for a while. I don't think that's like surprising news. I think Glacial Augment Ahri is the thing, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't played Ahri in a while, but
Ahri's kind of just like that champion that's always going to be okay. True damage is very strong. The charm is obviously a super strong engage tool, and it feels like it lasts way too long.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just it's really good that you have a high mobility champion that can kill most squishies in one rotation and then get out for free. I don't think she's exceptionally strong. I just think she's safe. Not the hardest champion to play, and just kind of like old reliable.
Yep. That's kind of why I want to learn her, because I feel like she's always decent. I think that's why it's nothing.
Same with Syndra.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it's like ganking Ahri is kind of like trying to gank a Fizz, and if Ahri has her ult up, you're not gonna unless you like one shot her. You're not gonna kill her. She's just gonna R away. She doesn't have to burn any sums or anything. She gets 3 dashes that are as long as a flash that go over walls. So she is just one of those super safe champions that her Q and her W give a lot of wave clear that you just can't interact with her. And those kind of champions that give give you such like a safe laning phase and are so uninteractive, but can roam really well, just to make it so that they have such a wide impact without risking themselves. And that's always going to be good in solo queue, which is why you see her a lot have such a high win rate there, but like she's not picked in pro at all because she doesn't actually do that much in general. She's just safe.
Okay. Any last things to add? Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I would say like also with Zed leaving the scene, it's a lot easier for Ari to breathe because it's hard for her to do her early clearing stuff if like you got a Zed down your back. I think that honestly, I'm actually surprised that she's getting like her win rate's up there because I think with tanks being buffed, Ari's kind of garbage against tanks. Like, yeah, they can't kill her, but she can't kill them, and she doesn't
have true damage.
He does have true damage, but true damage is worse on tanks than you would think because once they start stacking health, like Sejuani builds Warmog second. Like, what are you're basically not going to be able to kill her before going Her nice parts are she's good for roaming. Her Glacial Augment build is pretty brain dead. Like, you don't run
Yeah.
It's really hard to miss the slows if you can also just ult into range. And so she gets good engaged. She's safe. I think that when you pick Ari, though, you do need to make sure that you realize that she's not a late game powerhouse in terms of damage, like team fight damage. She can pick off squishies and reposition. She's like an AP Ezreal. Well, I guess you can go AP Ezreal. She's like a mage Ezreal, caster Ezreal, whatever.
Okay.
So she's good, but I wouldn't get like don't expect to be doing like fizz levels of single target damage when you play her. You need to get a little comfortable with like how to choose your targets and how much your damage does, and getting comfortable with like
especially with that.
She's very
especially with that glacial build that has a lot less damage than the traditional death cap Ludens build.
Yeah, a lot less, like 20 less AP, and without the extra pop. But
I agree.
She has the hidden passive of junglers hate to gank her. So like even
that's what I'm saying.
Like
that's right.
Yeah, you ever play jungle? It's like, is there ult down? It's like, well, no. It's like,
I'm not visiting. Sorry,
I'm not revealing my position for that.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to jungle and then top lane. So jungle, silver, as far as this is tier list, so we have Yi, Jax, and Hecarim. This is the order too, by the way. Yi, Jax, Hecarim. Gold, it's Yi, Hecarim, J4. Plat, Hecarim, Yi, and J4. So a lot of the same names there. And as far as win rate goes, silver, you mentioned this earlier, Nighthawk, but Amumu, Rammus, Udyr. And gold, Amumu, Nunu, and Vi. And Plat plus, Hecarim, Nunu, and Yi. So a couple things really stand out for me here. Yi and Hecarim. Yi and Hecarim seem to be pretty strong. Again, I'm not sure why. Maybe you guys can expand on that and maybe give us some thoughts on why Yi seems to be across all elos, not only top tier, but even doing well in Plat Plus as far as win percentage goes. Hecarim we knew got buffed, so Hecarim has been doing well. Any thoughts on that as far as the Yi and Hecarim goes?
So as for Yi, the reason why I think Yi is like such a high win rate as well as play rate right now is that people are starting to figure out that Wit's End is also an insane item.
That's disgusting.
You combine Conquer, Blade of the Rune King, maybe the Blood Razor item, Guinsoo's, and Wit's End. Like, he's starting to build Exodia in terms of his item build. It's just like all these items just keep coming out, and he hasn't been touched for ages. So when other junglers get nerfed, or like even against tank junglers, he's decent against tank junglers, I would say. Like, he can shred
fantastic,
most of them and then he could just like take over. He's always been pretty good in solo queue in terms of like taking advantage of the chaos of solo queue. But he just didn't offer the utility before, and so I'm a little surprised he's the top of the top. But with Wit's End especially, like, it's disgusting what Wit's End can do to certain mages. Like, you won't lose a 1v1 to any like mage if you're playing Master Yi.
Yeah,
you won't lose a 1v1 to most characters actually once you get an item or two.
Yeah, and I think it's like similar to, I mean, kind of like the thing with Riven with Death's Dance. Now that Death's Dance, like whenever they changed that, however many patches ago, that it heals off of all damage instead of just physical damage. Yi does so much true damage, and he's healing from Wit's End, from Death's Dance, from Bork, and then he's also, and if he's got Ginsu's, he still heals from that because they usually go Ravenous Hunter or something like that. So they're healing so ridiculous. I mean, you'll see Yeez get like to a sliver of health, and then they get like 2 autos off from their passive, and they're at full HP again. It's absolutely insane that you can heal that much, even through like potentially executioners. because of just how much pure damage they're doing. So I think that's the reason. And then obviously you have Funnel is becoming slightly more popular again, and as you go higher and higher up, like to play those kinds of champions, you kind of have to Funnel for it to be any good. Whereas in low elos, you can just play Yi and win regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's one of the reasons why Yi is popping up so much, and he obviously shreds through tanks. Even though tanks definitely have better ganks than Yi does early on, if they're not able to get enough lead for the team to deal with Yi, like power farming, then he's just going to kill everyone and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Nighthawk, you got anything on Yi?
Or Mastery is basically... I'll do both. Mastery is basically the Vayne if Vayne was melee and played in the jungle. Once he gets those items, he's so incredibly hard to do anything about as a solo or a duo that it just becomes, where am I going? If I'm not with my team, I do have to be careful of Yi. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize about Yi, because most people don't play him well, is that he has actually very, very safe tower diving capabilities. His Q will juggle aggro to your partner, and then his W can ignore a lot of those tower shot damages. So you can actually go in, tank the tower for however many shots you can, Q, drop the aggro, finish off the kill, and then W to block most of the damage coming from that next one coming in. So that's, his ganks aren't great because no CC, but he can kill people very quickly, and then especially if you stack a red buff on top of that, you'll be able to get out and heal back up to full and do something else. Like Kevin said, I think Wit's End is just absolutely phenomenal on him, especially combined with Rage Blade. It makes it so that you can, with 2 or 3 items, you can solo Baron in under 30 seconds at any stage of the game with those 3 items, while maintaining 75% health-ish.
That's insane.
As long as you're not interrupted, it's guaranteed objectives. Split pushing capabilities is always there because he attacks so quickly, and he's the ultimate solo queue jungler. He's like Udyr on steroids because he can do anything.
He's just better.
No reason to pick Udyr if you can play Yi.
Yeah.
Hecarim's sort of on that stage where he has good tower dives because of his ultimate and his E. His ganks are obviously a lot better because by the time you get vision on Hecarim, you're probably already ganked. Yeah. And you're probably already dead. That combined with Conqueror's healing gives him decent sustain. He's not the tankiest jungler anymore because people generally build more AD on him, but he can tank a little bit, and he's got a lot of good engage off of his ult in the late game. So just a lot of nice capabilities in one horse package.
One horse package. Okay. You guys got thoughts on Hecarim, Kevin, or Kangdor?
Yeah, Hecarim's my most played jungler this patch. I've just been spamming him. Every time I have a chance, I play Hecarim. Take Conqueror on him for sure. Take Ghost on him, actually. It's quite good. And he's insane because he wins 1v1 duels at an early game with how fast he stacks Conquer. Once you finish your first really shaky clear, his clear speed is insane. So you spend a lot less time jungling and a lot more time doing stuff around the map. And he has that magical quality where he just ignores wards because he just outruns you.
Yeah.
He's also really cool. Like another hidden power that he has that a lot of people don't recognize is like, even if you're not that, how do you say, like you don't have great jungle instinct, you can just play Hecarim because like if a fight just breaks out by, you're like, wow, I'm in mid lane, but I'll be down there in like 4 seconds. Don't worry.
Yeah.
The Ramus ability.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like. So like you don't have to be like, like that perfect KT score or whatever, Tarzan, like cognizant
like
jungle.
predicting where it's going to be
in the area, and you can join in. He has great engage. Using the ult on squishies is really nice. It's a good engage, and everyone knows you're engaging. So like it's like the buy effect. People are like, okay, we're going in. We're going in, which is valuable in solo queue. Quick tip: charge up your E and then ult, and then your E will still be charged up. And then you can use that ult when you're fearing your like enemy AD carry, for example, into your team to knock them further into your team. So a lot of people sometimes just like hit them with the E first, which is the rampage, and then they ult, which is not optimal.
Okay, nice. Kangdor, any thoughts on Hecarim?
Yeah, I mean, Hecarim's definitely just one of the strongest duelers. I mean, you'll see, I don't know how many clips I've seen now of like Hecarim being 1v3 at like a third of his health, and you have like 3 people who are like at least 3/4 health coming in, and then he just uses Q, Conquer, and I think it's his W that gives him the healing on the damage dealt to a target, and suddenly he's turned around and killed all 3 of them, and they're like, you'll see the chat like balance champion. So the amount of dueling that he provides plus really good ganks just makes it so that he's dominant in the jungle right now. Where again, like being able to outduel the enemy jungler for scuttle and being able to gank well is such a good like early game pressure that it just snowballs into like an insurmountable lead, which is why I think he's so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's go on to top lane. But before I do, some interesting stats. We don't need to talk about it unless you have something to say about it. But I was just looking at like win rate jumps, and in gold, Tryndamere for some reason Tryndamere jungle first of all, but went from a 47 to 53% win rate. I thought that was pretty interesting. 6 percentage points up there.
What's the play rate on that?
I don't know. It's still low. Actually, it's still low.
Very low. Yeah.
Very low. Yeah, but I still thought it was pretty
6%.
high. Hecarim actually, so Plat plus Hecarim actually did go up 2 percentage points. Even he's strong, and his win rate also has jumped up from 52 to 54%. And then also from Plat plus Ivern has gone from 52 to 54%.
I don't know why Ivern's been being played recently.
I don't know why either. Yeah, I've seen a little bit more Ivern as well. So, anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there, just for giggles. But let's move on to the top lane. We talked a lot about top lane champs because it seems like that's where most of the broken ones are. But in as far as tiers go, in silver, it goes Nasus, Urgot, Kayle. Gold, it's Kayle, Nasus, Urgot. Plat, it's Riven, Jax, Kayle. So again, we mentioned Kayle and how he's kind of been brought down to a not so OP level, but as far as tier rankings go, she's still up there. As far as win percentages go, in silver, it's Yorick, Nasus, Urgot. Gold, it's Nico, Yorick, Nasus, and Plat plus, it's Riven, J4, and Wukong. And we've seen a slight win rate increase in Gnar. It's gone up a couple win percentage points, but I guess for me the standouts were Nasus. I mean, Nasus is one of those top laners. I mean, obviously I see a lot of people, this is a champ you don't really need to do anything except stack your Q, and then mid game you're a monster. Urgot, again, we mentioned Urgot, and Kayle we also mentioned. Riven we also mentioned. Yorick I think is one that we didn't mention. Yorick, as far as win rate goes, seems to still have a high win rate, and even though he wasn't in the top 3 as far as tier list goes, he was still within top 5. He was still pretty up there across those elos. So let's not talk too much about the ones we've already talked about, but do you guys have any thoughts on Yorick?
Actually.
Go ahead, Nighthawk.
Yorick sort of has that Tryndamere effect where even if he gets beaten in lane, he kind of still has a lot of pressure throughout the game, just because he can push those towers very quickly. With his Mist Maiden, he actually wins a lot of duels as well, because the extra % health damage you get when attacking a Mist Maiden target can shred through tanks. It can keep you ahead on trades versus squishies, and it's just very good. But I think most of the strength of Yorick, especially in the lower elos, comes from people not being able to deal with a split push, especially a very quick split push. Yorick can go from Hour Tower to Inhibitor in under 2 minutes late game if you leave him alone. So if you see a lot of dances around Baron or dances around Dragon, that's where Yorick kind of shines, because stop the backs, I'm taking their inhib with a shot. It's all over. That's mainly why I think Yorick is good, especially in those lower elos.
Okay, Kevin, you got anything on Yorick?
Yeah, his cage setup with I call it the pile-on attack, but I actually don't know what you call it when the little ghouls attack. A lot of people don't know how the cage works, and so like they don't know that, like, for example, the cage scales like 2 autos to break, 3 autos to break per rank or whatever. As it ranks up, it goes up. They just don't know what to do. So if they don't have a dash, they just sit there and they get pounced on. It's a good game setup. Most people don't know how his skill shots work, like which ones send the ghouls, which ones activate the cage, that you can actually outrun the cage with a certain amount of move speed. So play Yorick if you want to be like one of those like Nautilus mid sort of things. I would say if you do play Yorick, that don't group up. Just like
I agree with that.
90% of the time, there's no point in TPing into fights, because you're just gonna do almost nothing unless you're on top of them.
Yeah.
I don't like Yorick. Don't play it though. If you don't,
Yeah,
if you like,
I used to play Yorick last season for a decent amount of. After Akali got reworked, actually, I was like, man, it make me learn another champion. So I was like, well, let me just play Yorick. And there were so many games I can't even remember that I would single-handedly take inhibitors, top lane, and then I'd go to the bot lane and do the exact same thing. So it's like I could, basically take two side lanes all together. So I think you guys are right. Kangdor, do you have anything to add about the Yorick?
Yeah, I mean, I still think Yorick, he's definitely like oppressive top lane if people don't know how to play around him or like when he's weak. Because some people, like, they take the damage from the ghouls and then they're like, oh no, I'm at half health. I can't possibly trade with him now when he has no more ghouls, and that's like half of his damage at least.
Yep.
So you'll definitely see that at lower elos that people won't take advantage of his weak points, especially since they're usually early on and people get scared if they get hit by a lot of ghouls. But I personally don't like him because he's one of those champions where if he doesn't have his ult up, he's not a champion.
Yeah.
Like
oh my god.
He's not a threat to anyone. Even if he has his ghouls, if he doesn't have his ult, he gets basically no healing. His damage is way less. So
well, it is nice that Maiden will go with you now. Before, once you put it out, yeah, that was nice because now you can. I think there's even strats where you just shove in wave and then recall, leave your maiden. Because the maiden heals with you too if you go back to base. So it's really nice that you're able to do that. But for sure, when you don't have maiden up, just be careful because you'll get pooped on.
Quick hot tip about Yorick: if you put the W down and then you stand sort of on top of the bottom half. A lot of people have trouble clicking on it to actually auto-attack and break the cage. It's sort of like the Cho'Gath effect, where you hide your AD carry underneath Cho'Gath, and then they can't
click on the ADC.
So
I like it.
That can really throw a lot of people off. They'll try to click on the cage, they'll click on you, they'll click on the ghouls, and they'll have a lot of trouble.
You're a filthy man, Nighthawk. You're a filthy man. Anything to win, in my opinion. Anything you can to win. Hey guys, we've got about an hour and a half. So, is there any final things you want to put out there to our listeners as far as things that they might want to know before they go to the
real
rift?
quick? One of the listeners asked about Mundo Jungle, so I could touch on that because I've played it before.
Okay.
So the buffs to Mundo, they added like 5% current damage extra onto his Q at I think all ranks or something like that. Something insane. And also buffed his E-masochism damage. So those are great and sound good for the jungle. Biggest problems with Mundo Jungle right now is he actually can die on his first clear. Like his first 3 camps he clears. If you do like red Krugs and chicken nuggets, like it just they'll destroy you sometimes if you don't know how to kite properly. So Mundo's you need to go to the practice tool and play Mundo Jungle just to like know how to do the clear. So that's a big problem.
He takes scuttles really well though.
He takes scuttles really well, but that's if no one's there to mess up your day.
He takes solo scuttles well.
He takes solo scuttles well, very very well, and his games are good. His scaling's insane actually with Cinderhulk and like how strong he gets. Just keep in mind that you will be ceding your right to be a character for like the first couple minutes of the game. So if you can like tell your teammates, be careful. I'm playing.
Be careful. I'm not in the game.
I'm having trouble with these camps. Then like.
Yeah,
maybe you'll do well. I think that it's decent. It's really fun to play, but I don't think it's meta breaking yet.
It
doesn't have the stats.
Do you take Fleet for Mundo in the jungle for the sustain?
Used to take Unsealed Spellbook before they changed it. Nowadays, there's not really an ideal rune. You could take Conquer, honestly, but Fleet can work because the movement speed gap closing is useful. The most important rune to take is approach velocity, though.
Yeah, I mean, I know Fleet also gives you sustain in the jungle for people who might struggle with it.
Yeah, but it gives it does. It helps a little bit. It just it's a struggle. We're still working out the tech. We might be able to get
still working out the tech.
Still working out the tech. Nice. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Episode.
Hey, you know what? I'm all for it. Nighthawk, Kangdor, do you got any final thoughts? Good. We good to go. We good to climb on the rift now. Hey, I just want to thank my co-hosts again, Kevin, Kangdor, Nighthawk. Thank you so much for being on the show, guys. I hope this was informational for y'all. If you like the podcast, then please subscribe, rate it 5 stars, and give us awesome reviews. You can even lie if you want. Just say that we're all good-looking guys. We know our stuff. We're pretty funny, I guess, and whatever. We'll take it. We'll take it. But thanks again for joining us on the show, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.